The cold rain hammered against the plastic bus shelter as 23-year-old Sarah Mitchell pressed herself into the corner, trying to make her body as small as possible. Her threadbare jacket offered little protection against the November chill that seeped into her bones, and the cardboard sign beside her, reading, "Anything helps, God bless," had turned to mush hours ago. She hadn't eaten in 2 days, hadn't slept in a real bed in 6 months, and the hollow ache in her chest had nothing to do with hunger anymore. It was the ache of invisibility, of watching hundreds of people pass by each day without seeing her at all, as if she were already a ghost haunting the streets of a city that had forgotten her name. But then, through the curtain of rain and the blur of her exhausted tears, she saw a small figure approaching, a little girl no more than 7 years old, with tangled brown hair and eyes far too serious for someone so young, and everything Sarah thought she knew about rock bottom was about to change forever. If you believe that kindness can change lives, that second chances matter, and that hope can be found in the most unexpected places, please hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, leave a comment below about a time someone showed you unexpected kindness, and subscribe to our channel to never miss stories that remind us what it means to be human. The little girl stood directly in front of Sarah, seemingly unbothered by the rain soaking through her pink jacket that was at least 2 sizes too small. Sarah looked up, startled to be noticed at all, and tried to wipe the rain and tears from her face with trembling hands. The girl studied her with an intensity that made Sarah uncomfortable, not with judgment, but with a piercing kind of recognition, as if she were looking at a reflection of something she understood too well. Sarah opened her mouth to say something, anything to break the strange tension, but the girl spoke first, and her words struck like lightning through Sarah's chest. "You need a home, and I need a mommy," the little girl said with the matter-of-fact directness that only children possess, the kind of brutal honesty that cuts through all pretense and politeness straight to the raw truth beneath. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, and for a moment she forgot about the cold, forgot about the hunger, forgot about everything except those enormous brown eyes staring at her with a desperate kind of hope that Sarah recognized because she carried that same hope deep in her own chest, buried under layers of disappointment and survival. She noticed details then that her exhausted mind had missed at first. The girl's clothes, though small, were relatively clean but clearly secondhand. Her shoes had holes near the toes, and there was a wariness in her posture that spoke of a child who had learned too early that the world was not always safe or kind. "Where's your mommy, sweetheart?" Sarah asked gently, her voice hoarse from disuse and the cold, looking around for a frantic parent who must surely be searching for this wandering child. The girl shook her head slowly, rain dripping from her hair. "She's gone. Been gone since my birthday. I'm with Miss Patricia now, but she's got 7 other kids and she's tired all the time and she can't be nobody's mommy, not really. She just keeps us fed and keeps us safe, but that's not the same thing." The words tumbled out in a rush, as if the girl had been holding them in for too long, and Sarah felt her heart crack open in a way she hadn't allowed it to in months because feeling too much when you lived on the streets was a luxury you couldn't afford. Sarah had built walls around her heart, thick and high, because caring about anything other than survival was dangerous, but this little girl was demolishing those walls with every word. "What's your name?" Sarah asked softly, and the girl replied, "Emma. Emma Grace Patterson. I'm 7 3/4, and I live in the foster home on Maple Street, the big blue house with the broken fence." She said it all so precisely, as if she'd practiced it, as if she needed people to know exactly where she belonged even though belonging seemed to be exactly what she was missing. Sarah felt tears burning behind her eyes again, but different tears this time, not tears of hopelessness but tears of recognition and shared pain. She saw herself in this girl, saw the younger version of Sarah who had bounced through foster homes and temporary families, who had aged out of the system at 18 with nothing but a garbage bag of belongings and big dreams that evaporated the moment reality hit. She had tried, God knows she had tried, worked 2 jobs while taking community college classes, but when the factory closed and she lost her apartment, everything unraveled faster than she could have imagined. One missed rent payment became 2, became an eviction, became sleeping in her car until the car got repossessed, became the streets and the shelters and the slow erosion of dignity until she couldn't remember what it felt like to be a person with a name and a future instead of an invisible problem society wanted to forget. "I'm Sarah," she said finally, and Emma smiled for the first time, a small tentative smile that transformed her serious face into something radiant despite the rain. That's a pretty name. It means princess, my teacher said. Are you a princess? Emma asked with the innocent hopefulness of a child still capable of believing in fairy tales despite everything. Sarah laughed, a broken sound that turned into a sob. No, sweetie. I'm definitely not a princess. I'm just someone who made mistakes and had bad luck and couldn't find my way back. But Emma shook her head vigorously, sending water droplets flying. Miss Patricia says everybody's a princess in God's eyes, even when they can't see it themselves. She says sometimes people just need somebody to remind them who they really are. Something shifted in that moment, something fundamental and profound that Sarah couldn't name but felt in her bones. This little girl, who had every reason to be bitter and closed off, who had lost her mother and been shuffled into a system that would never give her what she truly needed, was standing in the rain offering Sarah something more valuable than money or food. She was offering Sarah dignity, recognition, the radical gift of being seen not as a problem or a cautionary tale but as a person worthy of kindness and connection. Emma reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled $5 bill, holding it out to Sarah with both hands like an offering. Miss Patricia gave me this for helping with the little kids all week. She said I could buy whatever I wanted, but I want you to have it. You can get something warm to eat. And maybe you could come meet Miss Patricia. She's always saying she wishes she could help more people, and you seem nice, and you have sad eyes like me, and maybe if we both asked her together, maybe she'd let you stay in the basement where it's warm, at least until the rain stops. Sarah stared at the $5 bill, at this child's entire week's earnings being offered without hesitation, and something inside her that had been frozen for months began to thaw. She had spent so long believing she was worthless, believing the world's assessment of her as a failure and a burden, that she had forgotten what it felt like to be treated with simple human kindness. She wanted to refuse the money, wanted to tell Emma to keep it, but she also knew that refusing would hurt this little girl who was trying so hard to fix a small piece of the broken world around her. So Sarah took the money with shaking hands and pulled Emma into a hug. This small stranger who smelled like rain and cheap shampoo and something indefinably sweet, and they held each other in that bus shelter while the world rushed past, two broken people finding unexpected comfort in each other's arms. Come on, Emma said, pulling back and grabbing Sarah's hand with the confidence of a child who had decided something and would not be deterred. Miss Patricia's house is only 4 blocks from here. She makes soup on Saturdays, and there's always extra. She won't turn you away, especially if I tell her you're my friend. Sarah let herself be led, stumbling on numb feet, clutching her few possessions in a plastic garbage bag, following this determined little girl through rain-washed streets as twilight gathered around them. The foster home was exactly as Emma had described it, a large blue house with peeling paint and a broken fence, but with warm light glowing from every window and the sound of children's voices spilling out into the dusk. Emma pushed through the front door without knocking, calling out for Miss Patricia, and soon a woman in her 60s appeared, round and tired looking but with eyes that radiated warmth and immediate concern when she saw Sarah standing wet and shivering in her doorway. What happened next felt like a dream to Sarah's exhausted mind. Miss Patricia, without judgment or lengthy explanations required, wrapped Sarah in a blanket, sat her at a crowded kitchen table surrounded by curious children, and placed a bowl of hot soup in front of her that Sarah ate so fast she barely tasted it. Emma sat beside her, beaming with pride as if she'd personally solved all the world's problems by bringing this stranger home. Miss Patricia explained that she couldn't officially take Sarah in, the regulations were strict and her license only covered children, but she made calls that evening, her voice firm and persuasive, to friends in her network of church volunteers and community advocates. She found Sarah a bed in a women's shelter run by people who actually cared, who treated residents like human beings rather than inconveniences, who offered not just beds and meals but job training and counseling and the kind of practical support that could actually help someone rebuild a life. If this story has touched your heart, if Emma and Sarah's connection has reminded you that we all need each other, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends and family, and leave a comment telling us about the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you or about a time you helped someone unexpectedly. Your engagement helps these stories reach more people who need hope. Over the following weeks and months, Sarah's life began to transform in ways she had stopped daring to imagine. The shelter connected her with a job training program, she got her GED, started working part-time at a grocery store, and slowly, painfully, began to believe again that she might have a future worth living. But through it all, the constant was Emma, who visited the shelter with Miss Patricia every Sunday, who saved her drawings and school achievements to show Sarah, who called Sarah her, almost mommy, with such conviction that Sarah began to believe it might actually be possible. Sarah started the process of becoming a foster parent herself, began taking the classes and doing the paperwork, began imagining a future where she and Emma might actually become the family they both needed. Before we finish this story, please take a moment to comment below with the word hope, if you believe that broken people can heal each other, that family is sometimes found rather than born, and that the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. It took nearly a year of Sarah working multiple jobs and saving every penny, a year of home visits and background checks and proving herself worthy, a year of Emma never losing faith that the woman she'd met at the bus shelter was meant to be her mother. But on Emma's 9th birthday, in a courtroom with Miss Patricia crying happy tears in the front row, Sarah officially became Emma's foster mother with plans for adoption to follow. As they walked out of that courthouse hand in hand, Emma looked up at Sarah and said, "See? I told you that you were a princess. Princesses always save people. You just didn't know that I was saving you right back." And Sarah realized that Emma was right, that on that rainy November evening at the bus shelter, two broken souls had found each other and had chosen, against all odds and logic, to believe that love and connection were possible even in the darkest circumstances. They had saved each other, not through grand gestures or miraculous interventions, but through the simple radical act of seeing each other's humanity and refusing to walk away. Sarah had needed a home, and Emma had needed a mommy, and together they had built something neither could have created alone. A family forged not from biology but from choice, from courage, from the breathtaking belief that everyone deserves to be loved, to belong, to come home.